Welcome to the Grand Temple of Enki. My name is Max. I am the Temple Ipsissimus. I am a oracle of Enki and the Sumerian and Egyptian gods and goddesses. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about Gnosis, the Gnosis of a master magician. So when we talk about magic with a K, we think of ceremonies, rituals, incense, candles, robes, sigils, right? But what if I told you that this is in fact just a cover, more like a vessel for the true essence of magic? And I've performed various rituals, evocations, materialized spirits in my room through incense smoke. I've spoken to spirits face to face many times, left my body many times. And I can tell you this much, the majority of people do not practice real magic. One of the secrets of magic is that it's not just about power. And there are spirits in your body and that are a part of your life stream that watch over you, and they give you the power that you can handle. So it doesn't matter how many rituals or exercise you do, if you're not developing in terms of consciousness, then it's very unlikely you're going to be tapping into paranormal levels of magic. Oftentimes, magicians that get into the occult and magic and esoteric sciences become very belligerent because they are avoiding their pain. They're avoiding their loss. They're taking out all their frustration in magic. And they're not really facing the issue. They're not really facing the underlying dissonance within themselves. So magic tends to amplify the dissonance. So if you're heartbroken or if you're insecure or angry before, and you've gone to magic to avoid these feelings, to channel them into magical practice, then it's just going to amplify it. Like if you're petty and you're childish, then you're going to be just cursing everyone for fun or just cursing people for like really, unimportant things. And, that's a big thing I tend to see is that as much as people want to harness power, they have no power over themselves, right? Another thing I want to really share is, people think that the power is in the supernatural, especially people that have been desensitized think that the ends justify the means. They're willing to get their hands dirty and have blood on their hands if it means tapping into the supernatural, right? But I can tell you firsthand, as a person that tends to not tap into the supernatural stuff as much, when you take care of the fundamentals in magic, you can run circles around people that can materialize objects, that can, shape shift. You can run circles around them. Because in the end, the higher the consciousness, the more influence you have on a macro level. So there's a lot of logistics that come into play when it comes to what really defines your power in magic, and it's not always brute force. Most of the time, it's your intellect. It's your ability to see correctly. It's your ability to approach problems correctly in a way that actually produces a result and a 0-point effect. So, what do I mean by that? Most of us like to approach our problems from a place of lack, right? It's not 0 point. It's I'm at point B and I need to get to point A, right? I'm at the situation where everything's not resolved. I need to get to the situation where it is resolved. And we convince ourselves that we're not at point A yet, right? We convince ourselves that we have to do all these things to get to point A, where it's already accomplished. And this is very linear thinking. This is very human thinking. In magic, especially something I learned from Enki, is the meditate as if method. Meditating as if. When you're meditating as if, you're tapping into what it is already like to be at point A, right? So you're not falling into this lack energy. Oh, I need to solve this problem energy, right? You're already in a state of power, right? So you've already solved the problem, right? You've already solved the problem and you're just bringing in that harmonically. Because we tend to think very left brain, and the left brain likes to take us through loops. It likes to use the monkey mind as a solution, and oftentimes it just creates more problems, right? But when you get into the right brain, you start activating the genie. The genie does not have to go to the kitchen and pour a glass of water. The genie just snaps his fingers and he has a glass of water in his hand. That's how the genie works. The genie is harmonics, emotion, right? We're using our emotions to overcome obstacles before we even take any physical action. But the Western world and a lot of Western spiritualists will have you think that, you have to get your hands dirty. Like, I don't get that personally. You don't have to get your hands dirty in magic unless you're doing dirty work. And that's it. That's the truth. There's a way to work your magic as a god rather than as just a human, right? And every obstacle you are being tested. Are you going to go into the past, left brain? Or are you going to go into the future, right brain, right? So you either get to see things as the genie, as the god, and solve it as the genie or as the god, or you solve it as the human magician, right? It's not really even magician after that point. They're more like abominations, the things they do. And more important gnosis regarding magic is diet. What you eat matters, right? Don't eat trash. Don't eat GMO stuff, right? Your genetics matter when it comes to magic. Your genes channel your consciousness. So stay away from things that break down your DNA. Stay away from seed oils. Stay away from GMOs. Protect yourself from 5G and radiation from your cell phone and technology. Turn off blue light after sunset, right? There are things that we have to do to protect our energy. And that's also another thing. When you really awaken, you want to start protecting energy. You're going to have to. People have this false idea that when you're spiritual, that you're just supposed to get along with everyone. And that is not the case. That is not the case at all. I'm actually a very disagreeable person. But I'm in search for the truth. See, you have to preserve truth. You can't corrupt it. You have to preserve your energy. You can't corrupt it through people pleasing. You can't corrupt it through things that genuinely do not resonate with your energy, but you feel like you have to. Don't do that. Don't do that, because in the end, you're just going to be lying to yourself. And when you lie to yourself, you are leaking your own magic out, right? You're just leaking your own magic out. It's like gold. It's just like giving out gold for free, right? Like, you can't give gold out for free. Like, you're going to be robbing yourself of value, It's the same thing. You might convince yourself everyone deserves to have my gold, right? Because I'm spiritual and we're all equal. But no, like, you're supposed to have your gold for yourself, and you can only share your gold with those that are worthy of it. Okay? That's just how these things work. We have these false ideas about, spirituality, people pleasing, becoming vegan, wearing crystals because it increases your vibration. Like, no, no. There's ways to implement certain things to increase your energy, to increase the quality of your lifestyle from a, I guess, spiritual standpoint. But if you're getting into all these trends and these false ideologies, then you're just going to be digging your own hole. And then you're going to get into the real spirituality, which is nothing you've ever actually been able to fathom before. Another thing to know, especially from my experience, is you don't have to be vegan. Okay? There's this idea that, you have to be vegan. You have to be vegetarian, right? But like, that's not the case at all. Even in yoga, we have 3 types of foods. We have tamasic foods, we have rajasic foods, and we have sattvic foods. Sattvic is very light. It's more vegetarian, more vegan, I suppose. Rajasic is more for like athletes, for people who are like on the go. And tamasic is more like inertia. It's a state of I don't want to say laziness, but rest. It's what happens when you eat a lot and you're just sitting there like dozed off. And we have to understand like the cycles of rest and wakefulness, right? Like, if your nervous system hasn't rested properly, if you haven't slept properly, when you wake up, you're going to be exhausted. But yeah, you want to respect the spirits in your body. There are spirits in your body that are more jackal-like, that are more like carnivorous. So you want to respect those spirits by consuming meat, consuming the things that your temple of spirits requires. And that's coming from an ex-vegan, right? I used to be vegan, and I down spiraled in a way I can't even explain. My cognitive abilities went down the drain, and when I started eating meat again, I started to recover my instincts. Like, I was able to actually like understand nonverbal communication. I was able to understand social cues better, and it just recovered my brain. So that's just me personally. I'm not telling you what to do, but listen to your body. Listen to the spirits in your body. Listen to what you need to eat, right? There are cycles of death, rebirth, wakefulness, rest that we have to respect. Mentally, emotionally, even dietary, all right? And awakening people. A lot of us want to awaken our friends, family members, right? We want to awaken people because we think we know what's best for them. And while this does come from a pure-hearted place most of the time, we cannot awaken anyone else truly unless they are ready to awaken. We can't. And it's actually a sin to awaken someone before they are ready, because the soul and the nervous system needs to have proper sleep before they wake up. At the start of my journey, I recognized this process as very much like camping. Imagine you're going camping with your partner or with your family, and you simply wake up earlier than them the next day while you're camping. And while you're awake, you prepare breakfast for them, you prepare a table for them, you prepare everything they need for when they wake up, right? That's what you would naturally do when you care about your family members or your partner when you're out for camping. And then when they wake up, they've seen all the beautiful things you've laid out for them. That's what a lot of us are here to do, those are us that are awakened. It's not to wake people up forcefully and then to force them to see the table you made for them and then force food down their throat. That's not what you're here to do. So try to see it from a different point of view, and also take the time to recognize if you are avoiding any past patterns or traumas or neglect you've experienced from those people that need validation from them. Inspect every part of yourself that needs to wake them up to feel validated, to feel right. Okay, that's a big one, because a lot of us that awaken early, we tend to be the black sheep, right? And that causes us to go down the rabbit hole and uncover all these truths and conspiracies, and we just want to share it with everyone. Sharing it with everyone can sometimes also mean you're trying to prove to them how they treated you was wrong. In disguise, that's what it is. You trying to wake them up with your newfound facts is a way of you bypassing. It's a way for you to bypass and validate yourself into a new dynamic where they respect you, right? You're trying to make up for the disrespect they've made you feel, right? By trying to wake them up, which is bypassing. So instead of externalizing, because we want to escape this 3D matrix, right? We want to break out of it. Instead of externalizing your lesson and trying to project it onto the people around you, using a 3D template, use again a harmonic template. What would it feel like if you were already there, if people already respected you, if people already saw you, right? Internalize it. Internalize that instead of vomiting it out. Internalize that process, and you'll upgrade naturally from the inside, and it'll be much quicker too. But yeah, getting into more ceremonial things, you don't need to use tools. You don't need to use candles. You don't need to use incense. You don't really need to use anything to have magic in your life. In fact, when I really started to tap into my powers, I felt so distanced from tools. Honestly, don't even like using tools anymore. I really don't. Unless I have staff. Like a big metal staff, I'll use that. But other than that, I don't really like using anything. I like to just use my mind, use my body, my breath, you know? And I've produced amazing results in doing so. Because when you think about it, when the more you increase your vibration, the more you increase your energy, you're operating much faster. You're operating so much faster. And you know, when I first started doing magic, I used to go through this whole lesser banishing ritual, the pentagram, doing it all at once, like just like it was just, you know, a nightmare. And the more my vibration increased, I started to just do everything mentally. I started doing, you know, the pentagram rituals mentally, the middle pillar mentally, and I had so much more benefits from it. I felt so much more cleansed. I felt so much more power, right? Because in your head, from your astral body, it's very different. And there's more energy. The energy's higher, right? When you're doing it through your physical body, it's like it's just so slow. It's so slow. Even with altars, you know, I don't have anything against anyone that uses altars, but for me, when I use altars now, I'm just like, it's got to be for a big ritual. It's got to be either for a client, for a big ritual, and I'm just like, ugh. So I usually do altar rituals at my altar if there's like something big I want to create. And it can be exhausting, you know, honestly. Like just for my energy, I can feel my energy becoming slower as I'm setting up the space. It's just like, you know, and I'm just like casting all these circles, calling all these entities by chanting their name. And I'm like, you know, it's just exhausting. And I just stopped doing that. And my life became honestly way better, you know. And that's something I realized too. The masters, the grandmasters, especially Taoist magicians, they tend to do more energy work like me. We're just focusing on the energy. And for very specific things, they use altars and they use tools and rituals. So that's another thing you want to keep in mind. It's that if you really want to master magic, you have to first master the energy of magic, the essence of magic. Rituals and stuff, it's more like, you know, it's a way to practice magic, yeah, but if you don't know how to work with your energy, you're just kind of playing with toys. You know, that's kind of what it is. In the end, when you're working at an altar, when you're wearing a robe, all those things signify something to your consciousness, to your energy, to your subconscious mind. And most of the time, these objects people use in rituals are consecrated with certain energies. And if you don't even know how to channel energy or work with energy, then you're not really working with even any consecrated objects. You're just working with objects that are empty vessels. And that's all this, also the same thing with jewelry. Honestly, like there's a lot of people that like to wear pentagram rings and like to wear pentagram shirts and all these sigils and stuff, and they like to wear all this jewelry. And some people wear it consciously. Some people are aware of the fact you're supposed to charge it. You're supposed to consecrate it for it to actually carry the energies that it symbolizes. But most of the time, people are just following a trend. They get, blinged out with all this, spiritual jewelry, occult jewelry. But that doesn't make you more spiritual. It doesn't add more power to you unless your power is flowing through it. And another thing is language. Language in magic. Uh, I know great magicians that can channel amazing spells. Some of them are English, some of them are mixed language. I personally detest all spells that are in English. I do not like any spells that are in English. I always use spells that are either just mental, nothing verbal. I'll use Latin spells, Sumerian, Medu Neter, ancient Egyptian, Sanskrit. I'll try to go for the languages in the old world, languages that were known to be magical, because they are phonetically constructed to have magical effects on a person's consciousness. The English language is by far the most degenerate language on our planet. It is the most degenerate language. It does not support magic or higher consciousness at all. And it, in fact, distorts your neural circuitry. Like, that's why I don't even like talking that much. Like, if you meet me in person, you won't really see me talking that much. I talk more on camera and for my content more than anywhere else. I don't even like talking. I don't like having English mind chatter in my brain. Like when I was a little kid, when I didn't speak that well, my mind was so clear and I had so much clairvoyance. And the second I started to like learn English, my mind could not stop talking. It's like all that energy from my higher mind would sink into my reptilian brain, and my brain would just wouldn't stop, and my clairvoyance started to go down, and my sense of harmony in my light body started to go down. So that's something I learned about English. And that's something Enki showed me. It's not even something that I just decided one day that English is like a degenerate language. I actually saw how English was affecting my Merkaba and how it was inverting my Merkaba down into like a black hole. It was like inverting it. It wasn't allowing me to connect with my third eye. So I've seen this thing about languages. I've seen, especially English, I've seen the powers of certain languages, especially Sumerian, Latin, Sanskrit. It's definitely powerful. But like language is very powerful, and which languages you use definitely matter. So if you hear people telling you that, you have to know what the words mean and stuff, that's not necessarily true. If you simply know what the spell is doing, that alone is going to do a lot. But if the language is truly powerful, then those sounds, those vowels, the way it's phonetically constructed is going to create reverberations regardless. Even if you don't know what you're saying, even if you don't know what the spell is, the fact that it's in a powerful magical language is still going to carry a reverberation. Okay, it's still going to have an effect. With English, oh my, like even if I know what I'm talking about, it's like I can't emotionally always connect with what I'm saying because it's so confusing to the nervous system. English is the only language where the vowels are mixed up like a soup. All the other languages, the vowels are Latin based. All the vowels are different compared to English. Like they mixed all the vowels up, right? I is actually E, right? A is actually E, and like they just mixed everything up. They mixed everything up. Not even just vowels, but like other letters too. Like they just mixed everything up to confuse us. And now it's the most spoken language in the world, besides Spanish, I believe. And this is perhaps the most important thing I've learned when it comes to magic and my journey as a magician is that you have to exercise and protect your solar energy. Because, in the end, when you're a magician, you have extreme levels of solar energy. Extreme. Much higher than the average person. You're at a completely different caliber, right? And if you choose to be your authentic self, if you choose to be your true authentic self with people that are not into magic or that are not as advanced in magic, they are going to judge you. They are going to try to gaslight you. They're going to try to make you think that you're less than who you are. They're going to try to do all sorts of things to diminish your solar energy. So you have to be almost kind of like become like a healthy narcissist. You have to, in a way, become a healthy narcissist because humans that are not integrated in their, divine intelligence will munch on your energy all day and try to bring you down because they refuse to bring themselves up out of their own shadow. So you have to protect your energy, you have to exercise your energy, and you have to really understand why people behave a certain way and not take it personally. Because the second you take it personally, you're internalizing their karma. You're internalizing their doubt. You're internalizing their insecurity. You're internalizing all of it. When you become a fully integrated solar entity, your solar body is fully integrated, you're untouchable. You're unfazed. Okay? So if you're still being phased by stuff, energies are still getting into you, right? Finding crevices in your being, planting in insecurities, anger, right? Fear, doubt. If you're experiencing these things, understand where they're coming from. Inspect where they're coming from. Investigate it. Because in the end, if people are able to affect your energy, then it means you're not really protecting it properly. You're not really integrated properly. You're still leaking. So it's very important to know that. I cannot even describe how many people I've come across that have tried to gaslight me into thinking I'm not who I think I am. And the moment I do some solar exercises and clear that energy, it's like it turns back onto them and they have to face their shadow. It's really interesting. Like when you're a magician, I don't want to say you have to become a narcissist because I think that's more of an inflated ego. It's not realistic, but you have to have a strong ego. You have to have an integrated ego. Your identity has to be integrated with your soul. Okay? Because when you fully know who you are, no one can really shake you. And you just start to see it for their own projections. They're just projecting stuff onto you because you're casting shadows. You know, that's something you have to keep in mind. You're casting shadows, so people are going to be casting stones at you because they don't want to face their own shit. And this is also another thing I found as a magician. You know, when you're a highly sensitive person, which highly sensitive people tend to be magicians and witches, people will only respect you and love you to the extent you love and respect yourself. It's almost like an inside-out experience. You can't really expect anything from anyone unless you're providing that for yourself. It's almost like you're living inside out, right? People treat you the way you treat yourself, right? If you treat yourself like a peasant, people are going to treat you like a peasant. If you treat yourself like a king, then you're going to be treated like a king. Your presence demands it. Your presence reflects it. You're just a pure mirror. Your consciousness is just a pure mirror for reality. That's all. So you're either taking in reality, thinking you're a victim, absorbing, right? Or you're generating reality. And then that reality is mirrored back to you. So when you're a magician, you want to be a healthy magician. You want to be a magician that's mastered themselves. Self-respect, self-love. Put yourself first. Put yourself first always. And in putting yourself first, you are setting an example for other people. That's the truth. It's selfish, but selfishness is not bad. We think that being selfish is this bad thing. And that's guilt. That's guilt. And pride. It's the superego talking, right? We have this whole idea of service to others. I need to be a white mage. I need to be a starseed. I need to be a light worker. My needs don't matter. I'm just here for a mission. And, you know, it's like, screw this human life. I'm just going to be of service and, you know, nothing else matters. My life sucks anyway. Like, no, that's not how it's done. Okay. You'll see a lot of people that are, you know, using these terms as polarized service to others, polarized service to self. When in reality, that's like kind of like saying, you know, I'm only going to use my right hand for the rest of my life, you know? Like, you got to use both hands. Like, if you want to be able to serve other people, you got to be able to, like, make something for yourself, too. You can't give from an empty cup. One of the things I've learned from Enki is to imagine that I don't have a body. What would it be like moving around? What would it be like constructing things, moving things? It becomes mental. It's all imagination. It's like imagining you're actually your aura, right? Your toroidal field, and you have these invisible hands, invisible arms, and you're bringing things to your physical self, right? And it's using your higher mind. Your higher mind is where pretty much all magic is casted from, where you are accessing God level magical will, your most sharpened will and state of mind. And this really does increase your ability to evoke the things you wish to visualize. the higher you go in terms of consciousness, and the more energy you raise, your visualizations become more instantaneous. You don't need to sit there for 30 minutes and just visualize, right? You don't need to do that. That's a very uh, it's a very slow way of doing things. So the things I learned from Enki is to just raise energy and to visualize. But another important thing I've learned from Enki in my Gnosis in magic is when you reach the top, like you become the top, top when it comes to magic. Like you're at the very top echelons of magical power. What happens is you begin to enter like a state where everything's in your head, right? And if everything's in your head, you start to act very differently. You don't fear anything anymore. You don't fear death. You don't fear loss either. And you're kind of in this timeless 0 point state. You're all powerful, all knowing, all seeing, everywhere, all at once. And the way you speak to people also becomes different. You don't even speak to most people. And this is what we call the 33rd degree, the real 33rd degree, not any of this fraternal stuff, but 33rd degree in terms of your consciousness, right? When you reach that state, when you reach that God consciousness, you're not in a trouble to really explain anything to anyone anymore. Like, you're not really out there trying to awaken people. You're not. In fact, the very act of doing that lowers your vibration. Yeah. When you're in that state, you are a completely different being. Completely different being. And I honestly call that, not call it, but I think it's the state of pure magic. That's where pure magic happens. It's where all your nadis are flooded with energy, with prana. And that prana, that energy, that plasma starts to create anima. It's almost like a Tesla coil. You start to see little, almost like a plasmic mist or electricity, almost like a, like liquidy electricity coming out of it. But then as the vibration becomes faster, as the rotations of the toroidal field become faster, it becomes animated. It becomes light. Anima. Anima is a Latin word for soul. The soul, the anima, becomes generated or restored, and you are filled with this light. And this light connects you to the vibrancy you once had when you were a child. And you're able to not just see mentally, but you can see emotionally. You can it's almost like a multi-dimensional sense. It's very vibrant, but you can also feel the vibrancy. You can feel colors. You can smell colors. You can smell visualizations. You can smell things. It's like all your senses kind of merge into one thing. It's like really cool. So it's a really different state of being. It's difficult for people to really understand the heights magic can go to when they're practicing magic from a lower level of consciousness. The more you increase your level of consciousness, magic also evolves. Another thing I suppose is wise to disclose and shine light on is, there's this idea in the occult community that deities and spirits are just aspects of us, and they only exist in us. and they don't exist in any way, shape, or form in any way else, which is not true. Reality is multidimensional. So even if it's symbolic in some book or text, that also applies to real life too, because reality is multidimensional. So if you're talking about Horus and Set, and somehow, that battle between Horus and Set actually corresponds to some alchemical process in you, well, guess what? The alchemical process also extends itself into the macrocosm. Because reality, especially when it comes to these gods, is multidimensional. It is within and without. And that's another thing I want to also get into. When you really start advancing in magic, and I mean really advance, like you're getting into serious magical power, there is no more inside or outside anymore. What is inside and outside? The whole concept of thinking the inside is separate from the outside is purgatory. It's duality. And if you're here, you probably know already that duality is an illusion. It's a perception. So there's no inside or outside. Especially the more you increase your vibration, there is definitely no inside or outside. You're able to read other people's thoughts, pick up on their thoughts. You're able to project what you wish to see into the world. You can draw, you can trace pentagrams in the air and they'll look real, right? It's like some serious mystical shizzle. And I'm only speaking from my experience. Like, I've experienced these things and I've seen other people project things like that very well as well. But diving deeper into that, there are serious magical powers, regardless of what anyone may say in the occult community. The real scholars, the real magicians, mystics, yogis know of what we call siddhis, the accomplishments of a certain energy. And there are various siddhis like levitating, bringing people back from the dead. And this isn't just in the Himalayas. This is not just in the Far East. This has been recorded in the Middle East, Mesopotamian area. It's been recorded in South Africa. It's been recorded in ancient Egypt. There were oracles of Enki. I'm an oracle of Enki, so I definitely know this. We have the 7 sages, Apkallu, and we have the ancient Egyptian, post-Atlantean Jed order, the Jedi, and these beings were able to do some incredible feats, such as shape-shifting, telekinesis, levitation, materializing objects, time travel, teleportation, bringing people back from the dead, various different things. And yes, these powers do exist. In fact, they go to levels of that are beyond comprehension. There are yogis in the Himalayas that can regrow limbs, that can materialize castles. It can get into some serious power, some serious magical power. So it's not for the faint of heart. It does, require a certain level of purification, power, responsibility. It's not for everyone. People that get into this type of magic, especially through benevolent forces, through benevolent means, are very, very special people, are very, very rare people. Some of them, in fact, live for thousands of years. It's a real thing. Another thing, I don't know why I'm even bringing this up. This should be fairly obvious, but there's also this whole concept of black magic and white magic, right? So when it comes to black magic, white magic, I wouldn't say one is evil, the other is good. In the end, black is magnetic, yin, yang is electric, giving. It puts out, it's output. But then you have people that, make it a whole rainbow. Red magic, blue magic, purple magic, green magic, right? And I don't even know whether to really actually take this seriously. Personally, I don't really take it seriously. Because like in the end, it doesn't really matter because that's still separation. That's just where I come from. To me, that's still separation. Like I don't even see the white and the black separate. I think they're both necessary. So people that get into whole blue magic, red magic, purple magic, I do not recommend you consider those type of practitioners your cup of tea if you're looking to go to the highest of the heights when it comes to magic. So here's some more gnosis for you about demons. So I have integrated personally the 72 demons of the Goetia and the 72 angels of the Shema Mepharash into my aura, into my psyche, to go through an alchemical process of building the Temple of Solomon as my being. So I reflect Adam Kadmon. I reflect the universal man. It's like my nadis are open and I am one in the cosmic egg. So what are the demons, right? People think demons are bad. People think demons are, evil. There's so many different perspectives out there, right? People say stuff like demon means like a negative emotion, like not true at all. Demon actually comes from the word daemon, and daemon actually means powerful spirit or genius. It's an ancient Greek word, and there are two classes of daemons. You have keikodaemons, and you have kalodaemons. Kalodaemons are known to be more benevolent, and keikodaemons are known to be more malevolent, just like humans. There are good humans, there are bad humans. So when it comes to working with demons, I'm going to be completely honest here, I've only experienced very good things. I've never really experienced anything negative working with the Goetia, working with Lucifer. I don't really consider him a demon. But even like working with beings like Lilith, Nama, Melektaos, Baal, I've never experienced anything negative. It's always been positive. In fact, most of them like help me quit my addictions, negative habits. And the gnosis I got when it comes to demons is angels in a way kind of are non-linear. They exist outside of time. So they kind of watch over outside of time. Demons, however, are more in linear time. So demons or daemons help mankind evolve through the wheel of time, right? So demons are more linear. The demon is there to help exercise you. You're exercising your demons to become the ideal that is the angel. Okay? So the demon is the necessary obstacle or the teacher that is there to help you become your angelic self. It's the same thing in the ancient Jed alchemy. You have to face your lower self as Horus. Horus goes into the underworld. and he quote unquote battles with his lower self, right? And he becomes reborn, right? Osiris dies, he's chopped into 14 pieces, symbolic for the 14 realms, the 14 lokas, and he's in the underworld for 3 days, just the way Jesus is in hell for 3 days, right? 3 days is 72 hours, 72 Goetia, 72 angels, right? In Islam, when you go to heaven, you meet 70 virgins there, because those are the 72 angels of the Shama Mepharash, the 72 angels of the zodiac. So there's a lot of misconception regarding the angels and the demons. In fact, I've worked with the Shema operation, where I summon all the archangels of the zodiac, deacons, Shem angels, and I charge myself and manifest with their powers. And they were the ones that really started to get me into working with demons. So when I'm working with angels, they would tell me to incorporate the demons too. And I was still working with demons back then, but when I started incorporating demons into the Shem operation, it's almost like they would construct the light codes I was bringing into my physical body. So angels are like the energies of your light body, and demons are like the energies of your physical body. You have to have both, right? You have to have both hands to create a heart, right? There has to be that duality, and in that duality is where you become your true self. In integrating the Shem and the Goetia, I've retrieved so many parts of myself and my soul equally, both from demons and from angels. So don't demonize demons. They're not there to harm you. In fact, I have clients where they love working with demons so much. And the demons were like, go work with angels for a bit. Because you have to have that balance. The demons will also tell you that. So, and that's another thing too, there's no spiritual war between angels and demons. That war is more so a war humanity is creating within itself, humans creating it within themselves. It's not a real war. There is a spiritual war, but it's not between angels and demons. Another thing I've come to realize is this whole initiation thing. I've personally never understood it. I've never studied under a guru. I've never been in a cult or secret society. I've never been in the magical order. And, I practice Kala Chakra Tantra. I practice Kala Chakra. I incorporate it into my magical practice. And you're supposedly supposed to be initiated into Kala Chakra Tantra. But I personally think this is complete BS. I think this whole initiation thing was created to hoard knowledge, to hoard power, honestly. So when you think about it, like if everyone knows Kala Chakra, if everyone knows these things, right? If everyone knows magical systems you need to be initiated into, right? And the people that hold the knowledge of those systems, then they have no leverage left over the public, right? Like that's just something I've realized because I learned Kala Chakra, which is kept very secret at the highest levels in Tibet. It's kept very secret, and I learned it through Enki directly. I learned through Enki, I learned through the Anunnaki, I learned it in a way that those monks probably don't even practice it. And it's a very powerful practice, but I learned it on my own. And I honestly think it's the same thing with other I think it's the same thing with other practices as well. Right? Like, gurus hoarding knowledge I personally don't buy into that at all. I don't put any guru on a pedestal. I really don't think a guru is going to really add anything into my life besides taking my solar energy and placing me into a hierarchy. I've always followed my own internal compass because I never trusted or relied on human intelligence. I always thought human intelligence in a way was minimized, um, whether it was for survival, the confines of a mortal mind, you know. And it was quite illuminating seeing the things I know and how certain gurus, especially in India, have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. Yet they still have powers, but they're only stuck in their tradition and in their way of operating, right? I learned so many things that are deemed secret directly from spirits and, in fact, from dead, immortal masters that, reside in the cosmos in their full light bodies and stuff. I've learned directly from them. And I know a bunch of other magicians that learn directly from, all these ascended masters and stuff. But when it comes to the mortal plane, these gurus seem to be very they hold on to the knowledge like there's no tomorrow. It's like a death grip. And they, make you do seva or selfless service, right? Devotion to their ashram, to their temples. And if you serve them, they'll give you knowledge little by little, and it's just like, I understand the idea behind it, but at the same time, you know, this whole initiation thing, to me, from my point of view, has been just hocus pocus. And this is also another key point I've discovered on my journey relating to spiritual warfare. Okay, so when it comes to curses, if someone's cursing you, if someone's doing magic on you, right? If someone's planning things for your downfall, right? What I've come to realize is that no one can really do magic on you unless there's polarity in you, unless you're polarized, unless there's an integrated aspect of your consciousness. So, for example, I realized I was being cursed a lot through my addiction to smoking, right? Years ago, when I was smoking, I realized that's when I was facing my spiritual warfare at its peak, when I was harming myself in some way, shape, or form. Spiritual warfare, the curses and the black magic was coming on to me. And even if your energy is solid, the crazy thing is sometimes we entertain toxic relationships. We entertain relationships with people that are not solidified, that haven't healed, and project onto the outside world. And sometimes those curses will bounce off of you and onto those people. And then it'll rile them up, right? It will make them more anxious, more depressed, more aggressive, and it will get them to attack your energy. So if you're entertaining toxic relationships and you're being cursed and you have a lot of spiritual warfare going on, it's going to bring everything to the surface. So what I found from spiritual warfare is to stay connected to God consciousness, right? That's the biggest duality of all. The biggest duality there is the separation between man and God. That's the biggest duality there is. So when you start to merge with your God consciousness, with your Godhead, then nothing can really touch you because you become everything. So just the fact someone's trying to curse you because you are everything, they are actually cursing themselves because you're also them, right? So basically, when you are God consciousness and someone else is cursing you, that is you cursing yourself in a different timeline, okay? So your enemy is actually cursing themselves but your enemy is also you in a different timeline. So if you stop cursing yourself in this timeline as this person, right? If you stop cursing yourself, you stop hurting yourself in this timeline, then that timeline can't touch you. Okay? So naturally, that's gonna go back onto them because you become God, you become everything. So your God spark is also in them because you're omnipresent. So when they're cursing you, they're cursing themselves. It's very multi-dimensional. You have to become it to really see what I'm talking about, but I know some of you here can already sense what I'm communicating. Another important point I've come to in my journey is realizing that there are two sides to the coin on this planet. There are two reality templates. One template is more like the solar channel. It's more to do with the celestial, the angelic, right? It's much more benevolent. And the other side, the other template is much more malevolent. Draco, reptilians, negative extraterrestrials, gargoyles, and beings as such. And there's these two reality templates. You have heaven and hell, you have the upper lokas, and you have the lower lokas. And I found that when you follow the systems and quote unquote the rules of each template, that's the one that you kind of belong to. So if you steal, if you do bad things, if you don't treat people the way you wish to be treated and you're hurting yourself, then you're in the underworld, right? If you're hurting yourself, your toroidal field is damaging itself, then you're going to be in the underworld. And these heavenly beings won't be able to protect you. But if you do, treat people the way you used to be treated, if you're, a benevolent person, you're not committing any crimes, and you get caught up in spiritual warfare, you have people stalking you and things like that, these beings will protect you. There's a lot of protection that comes from the celestial realms that we can't even really fathom. It's really important to recognize that you are protected when you are a kind, loving person. Because oftentimes when we're sensitive and when we get into trouble, we think we have to betray our purity and become something harsher and darker and more corrupt in order to adapt to the world. And then we get sucked into the underworld and we lose that protection, right? And for a while, it might feel good because it feels empowering. It feels like you're, dominating the world. But in doing so, you're cutting yourself off from your soul. So the more you go down that road, beings are going to be like, spirits are going to be like, are you sure you want to go down there? And you're going to be faced with more darkness. You're going to face more karma. And at some point, people choose to turn back. People choose to come back to purity. People choose to come back to a more Christic consciousness. And they, become self-aware. And there are cycles to this. There are definitely cycles to this where sometimes we have to go into the past again, do shadow work, and really understand why we did certain things, and go into the darkness to find ourselves. But it doesn't have to be that way either. If you're following a spiritual practice that allows you to bypass the underworld and you're just connecting to the heavens and the celestial energies, then you're going to be, nudged, encouraged, and guided by divine beings to your, higher self. But yeah, that's all I have to share for this video. I do plan on making a part 2, so stay tuned for that. But for now, this is all that came through. If you like this video, comment below, share your thoughts. I'd love to interact. And again, if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you next time.